Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are zooming in on a specific number that I think dominates a lot of conversations in doctors' offices.
It really does.
It's a number that keeps people up at night, or at least staring anxiously at their lab results. We are talking about LDL cholesterol.
It's arguably the most watched biomarker in modern preventative medicine.
It is. But here's the thing. Usually when people get a high number, the advice is, well, it's incredibly vague. Eat better, move more.
Right, cut the butter.
Exactly. Today, we're doing something different. We're looking at a stack of sources that outline a very specific evidence-based protocol. And the claim here is bold.
It's very bold.
The literature suggests that if you layer specific dietary interventions together, you can lower your LDL by approximately 30%.
Which is a number that really grabs your attention because in the world of nutrition, we're usually celebrating, single-digit improvements. A 30% reduction is not a rounding error.
Right. And to put that in context, that is roughly the same magnitude of effect you'd expect from the starting dose of a first-generation statin.
Like lovastatin, for example.
Yeah.
Exactly. So for the listener who is educated, who gets the risks, but is maybe wondering, is there a rigorous non-pharmaceutical lever I can pull first? This is the deep dive for you.
And I want to set the stage here because we're really tailoring this for someone who wants to learn. We know you're health literate. You probably already know the difference between LDL and HDL.
You're not looking for miracle cures.
No, you want the mechanism-based data. You want to know how it works, not just that it works.
Precisely. We are moving beyond the generic advice. We are going to dissect the protocols in what's called the portfolio diet and look at major clinical guidelines. We want to empower you with the why so you can stick to the what.
Okay, so lay out the roadmap for us. How are we breaking this down today?
We've got 4 main sections. First, we have to unpack the portfolio diet itself. It has 4 core pillars. This is where the strongest evidence is. Second, and this is crucial, we'll get into the biochemistry. How do things like fiber and sterols actually, physically clear cholesterol from the blood?
I love that. We're going to get into the plumbing of the liver.
We are. Third, we need an honest conversation about exercise and weight loss because the data there is a little counterintuitive.
Interesting.
And finally, timelines. How long does this actually take to work? Because nobody wants to do this for a year without knowing if it's moving the needle.
Fair point. Let's dive straight in. The portfolio dietary pattern. The name itself sounds like investment advice.
It's a good analogy.
But this isn't just one magic food, right? It's a strategy.
That's the key word, strategy. The whole idea is that there is no single magic bullet in nutrition. If you just eat oats, you might get a 3 to 5% benefit. If you just eat nuts, maybe another 5.
Okay.
But the portfolio approach aggregates 4 distinct cholesterol-lowering food groups. It's a stacking strategy.
It's the difference between buying one stock and buying the whole index fund.
That's a perfect way to put it. And the returns on this stacking are significant. Meta-analyses show about a 17% reduction in LDL in real-world trials.
17%.
But in the highly controlled trials, where the food is actually provided to people, we see reductions up to that 30% figure.
That's a huge gap, though. 17 versus 30. It tells me that sticking to it is the hard part.
It is. It's difficult to do perfectly. But even 17% is clinically massive when you're talking about cardiovascular risk over a lifetime.
Okay, let's dismantle this portfolio. What are the assets? Pillar number 1, viscous fiber.
Right. And we really need to emphasize that word viscous. We're not just talking about any fiber, not wheat bran or celery strings.
We're talking about soluble fiber that forms a gel.
A gel, essentially, yes.
Oh.
A thick, gooey gel in your digestive tract. The prescription is very specific. 20 grams of viscous fiber daily.
I've looked at nutrition labels. Getting to 20 grams of soluble fiber, that's a lot of oatmeal. That's a heavy lift.
It is substantial. We're talking oats, barley, psyllium husk, eggplant, okra, apples, that sort of thing.
And mechanically, what is this gel doing? Is it just blocking absorption?
It's more sophisticated. It's a mechanism called bile acid sequestration.
Okay, let's unpack that.
So your liver makes bile to digest fats, and that bile is made from cholesterol. Now, your body is incredibly efficient. It recycles that bile.
Right, it reabsorbs it.
Exactly. But this viscous fiber is sticky. It binds to the bile acids in your gut and traps them in that gel.
So they can't be recycled.
Right. They get dragged out of the body. Suddenly the liver realizes it's running low on bile and it has to make more,
And to make more, it needs the raw material.
which is the cholesterol circulating in your blood. The liver actually upregulates its LDL receptors, pulling LDL out of your bloodstream to restock its factory.
That is fascinating. So you're forcing the liver to vacuum cholesterol out of the blood.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that's why the viscosity of the gel matters so much.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. Let's move to pillar number 2. This one always seems a little tricky. Plant sterols and stanols.
This is probably the trickiest pillar to implement. The prescription is 2 grams per day. The problem is, it's incredibly difficult to get that therapeutic dose from food alone.
Because they exist in vegetables and things, right?
They do, but in tiny amounts.
Yeah.
To get 2 grams of plant sterols from broccoli, you would need to eat an amount that is, well, that's physically impossible.
So if I'm eating a huge salad thinking I'm hitting this pillar, I'm mostly diluting myself.
You're getting good nutrients, for sure, but you are not hitting that 2-gram therapeutic dose. To hit the target, you usually need fortified foods.
Like those special margarines or yogurts.
Or supplements, yes. It's a bit of a paradox, I know. To follow this natural diet, you might need a processed fortified food.
But the data says it works.
It does. It could reduce LDL by roughly 7 to 10%. Some sources say even up to 12. And the mechanism is really a case of mistaken identity.
Mistaken identity.
Plant sterols look structurally almost identical to human cholesterol. So when they get to your intestines, they compete for the same transport vehicles that carry cholesterol into the bloodstream.
It's like a game of musical chairs.
Perfect analogy. There are only so many seats on the bus. If the plant sterols take the seats, the actual cholesterol gets left behind and excreted.
So they just block the door.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
But you need that 2-gram dose to really flood the system and win the game.
Okay, pillar 3. This is the tasty one, but also the scary one for calorie counters. Nuts.
Yes. The prescription is about 42 to 45 grams per day, roughly a large handful.
And are we talking specific nuts?
The studies focus on tree nuts, almonds, walnuts, and also peanuts. The impact is around a 7% LDL reduction, but I know what you're going to ask.
I'm going to ask about the calories. That's a lot of energy. Won't I gain weight?
And this is where the research is so interesting. Despite the high fat content, adding this handful of nuts generally does not lead to weight gain in the trials.
How is that possible? A calorie is a calorie, isn't it?
Not necessarily. First, there's satiety. They make you full, so you tend to eat less of other things. But more importantly, there's evidence of incomplete energy absorption.
Meaning we don't digest all of them.
Exactly. The fat in nuts is trapped inside fibrous cell walls. Unless you chew them into a microscopic paste, some of that fat just passes right through.
So, practically speaking, don't put them in a blender and make smooth nut butter.
Right. If you break down those cell walls completely, you absorb all the calories, eat them whole, and you get the lipid benefit without the full caloric hit.
That is a very useful hack. Let's hit pillar 4. Plant protein, specifically soy and pulses.
The target here is about 50 grams of plant protein a day, specifically to replace animal protein. This is a substitution. But we have to talk about the soy debate because the history is messy.
Right. I feel like soy's been on a roller coaster. One year it's a miracle food, the next year it's a problem.
Well, early studies showed these massive cholesterol reductions. Then later studies showed more modest ones, maybe 3 to 6%. But the key is understanding the isoflavone nuance.
Unpack that for us.
Isoflavones are the bioactive compounds in soy. When the early data came out, the industry thought, great, let's just extract the isoflavones and sell them in a pill.
The classic reductionist approach.
And it didn't work. The data is pretty clear that extracted isoflavone supplements do not significantly lower cholesterol.
So the pill is useless for LDL.
For LDL reduction, it appears to be. The benefit comes from the whole soy protein matrix, or the synergy of the protein with the isoflavones.
So the actionable advice is eat the food.
Eat the food, tofu, edamame, soy milk. Don't rely on a supplement for this part. The whole food is what matters.
That seems to be the theme here.
Yeah,
Synergy.
It is the portfolio concept again.
Yeah.
The sum is greater than its parts.
I want to zoom out a bit now. How does this fit with the Mediterranean diet? Because that's usually the gold standard for heart health.
And this is a really important nuanced point. We need to distinguish between reducing cardiovascular events like heart attacks and strokes, and reducing the specific biomarker of LDL.
Wait, aren't those the same thing?
Not always. The Mediterranean diet is incredible for reducing inflammation and improving the health of your blood vessel walls. It absolutely reduces overall risk. But the meta-analyses are actually quite mixed on its ability to lower LDL specifically. If your Mediterranean diet is still, say, high in cheese or certain meats, your LDL might not budge much.
That's a huge distinction. So you can be heart healthy but still have a high LDL number.
Potentially, yes. If your specific goal is to drive down that LDL number, the portfolio components are more aggressive tools. It's like a turbocharged plant-forward version of the Mediterranean diet.
Okay, so let's talk about the two things people assume will lower their cholesterol: weight loss and exercise. If I drop 20 pounds, my cholesterol will plummet.
And this is where we have to manage expectations.
Yeah.
This is probably the most surprising part of the research for many people.
Why?
Let's look at the data. Weight loss has a profound effect on triglycerides. It is fantastic for raising HDL. It's vital for metabolic health.
That LDL.
The effect on LDL is statistically small. For every 1 kilogram of weight loss, LDL drops only about 48 milligrams per deciliter.
Wait, so if I lose 10 kilograms, that's over 20 pounds, a huge achievement, my LDL might only drop by 8 points.
Approximately, yes. Now, that's not nothing. But if your LDL is 160 and your goal is 100, weight loss alone is not the most efficient lever to pull.
That is somewhat depressing, but also freeing in a way.
It is freeing. I see patients who lose weight, they feel great, but then their labs come back and they feel like a failure because the LDL didn't move much. It's not a failure of will, it's just the wrong tool for that specific job.
You're pulling the triglyceride lever.
Exactly.
What about exercise? Cardio versus weights.
The research shows that combined training, doing both aerobic and resistance exercise, is optimal for your overall lipid profile. But again, for LDL specifically, the effect is modest.
What are the numbers?
A reduction of roughly 7 milligrams per deciliter. So helpful, absolutely, but not a magic bullet for LDL.
So similar to weight loss.
Right. But exercise does something diet struggles with. It can raise HDL, the good cholesterol. The catch is you need volume or high intensity. A casual stroll isn't really enough to move the needle on lipids.
So, to recap the levers, the portfolio diet is the heavy lifter for LDL. Weight loss and exercise are for optimizing triglycerides and HDL.
Correct. You need all of them for a healthy system. But for LDL specifically, diet is king.
So the big question, how long until I see results?
The timeline is surprisingly fast. Changes in LDL from these dietary interventions can be seen in as quickly as 4 weeks.
4 weeks? That's really fast.
It is. The liver responds rapidly. The guidelines generally recommend retesting 4 to 12 weeks after you start.
That's encouraging. It means you can run a 1-month experiment on yourself.
Exactly. But this brings us to the natural versus pharmaceutical balance. We have to be realistic. If you follow the portfolio diet perfectly, you can realistically drop LDL by 25 to 30%.
Which is massive.
It is. But for high-risk patients, someone who's already had heart attack, the guidelines are getting stricter. We're talking about targets of LDL less than 70 or even less than 55.
So let's do the math. If someone starts at an LDL of 190 and they get a 30% reduction, that gets them to about 133.
Exactly. And 133 is still more than double the target for that high-risk patient.
So for those people, lifestyle is foundational, but it might not be sufficient on its own.
Correct. For people with very high starting LDL or genetic conditions like FH, lifestyle is the base of the pyramid, but it may not be enough to reach those aggressive targets without medication. And that's okay.
That's a crucial conversation to have. It prevents that feeling of failure.
Right. And there are also non-responders. Some people's genetics just don't respond as robustly to these changes. You can do everything right, and the number just doesn't budge much.
So if you try this for 12 weeks and nothing happens, don't beat yourself up.
Precisely. But for most people, this protocol works, and it works well.
Let's summarize this stacking strategy for the listener who wants to go to the grocery store. What are the 4 assets for their portfolio?
Asset number 1, switch your protein, less meat, more soy and legumes. Aim for about 50 grams.
Asset 2.
The sticky fiber, oats, barley, psyllium, that 20-gram target. If it turns into goo, it's good for you.
Asset 3.
The sterols. This is the hardest one. You'll likely need a fortified food or supplement to hit that 2-gram target.
And asset number 4.
A handful of nuts. Almonds, walnuts, peanuts, about 45 grams. And chew them but not into a perfect pace.
And layer in that combined aerobic and resistance training to tidy up the rest of the numbers.
You got it.
I want to end with a thought that came up in our research, the idea of cumulative exposure, because we obsess over the number on the page today.
This is so important. We think of cholesterol as a snapshot, but we need to think in terms of cholesterol years, just like pack years for smoking.
That's a powerful image. Smoking a pack a day for 20 years is worse than for a month.
Exactly. Damage to the arteries is cumulative. It's the area under the curve. A 30% reduction that you maintain for 20 years creates a fundamentally different physiological trajectory than a crash diet for 6 months.
So consistency is the true bioactive ingredient.
It is. It's not about being perfect for a month. It's about changing the slope of the line for the next decade.
It's not a sprint. It's a portfolio. You hold it for the long term.
That's it, exactly.
Thank you for unpacking this with us. It's actionable, it's evidence-based, and it's surprisingly tasty if you like almonds.
And oats. Lots of oats.
Lots of oats. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you next time.